What's up guys, it's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video, and today we have What If Issei Left, part 3. Man, is this part just as intense as the last one. It's actually crazy. Once again, let's try to hit 900 or 800 likes. That'd be absolutely amazing. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or click the first link down in the description below, or if you're in the Premiere, click the link right on top where it's pinned. Thank you so much, everyone who's in the Premiere right now. And once again, thank you to just everybody. This series is really, really fun to read. I cannot lie to you. Remember to go subscribe to my second channel, Popowski, and follow DxD down in the description below. Without any further ado, let's go and thank my balance breakers: Rob the King, Locking Yates, Jordan Patchow, Night Ammo, Refeek135, Slow, the Black Dragon Emperor, and Lewis, Keep Saying 21, $5 Sake, Vierwolf #2347, XORX108, Ziki2000, Seth Voiles, Chaotic Raven, God Said Why, Joseph D. Los Santos, Mazaku, Dr. Nisquemo G _ is the bomb, Grim Fireshot Gamer, That Round Guy, Zero Fusion, Source Spawner, Chaotic Raven, the J-Boys, and Ryuga. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. Appreciate you all. And once again, if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for the support, man, and I won't hold you any longer. I know you guys are waiting for this part, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 3. Picking up back up where we left off at chapter 9. Now continuing with Ddraig. Well, partner, we better enter quickly. Why the rush? Issei said. Did you forget about the Citri Harris? Ddraig says. Oh, that's true. She was there, wasn't she? Remembering that Sona was in the classroom. She is likely to have told her sister, who will tell about the Mao Lucifer, Ddraig says. Yeah, that's true, but Ddraig, which side do you think they'll believe if I tell them? I don't know, Issei. I do not know. That remains to be seen, Ddraig says. Issei just sighed, entered the cave while thinking that what would happen if he told them and which side they would be on, but he stopped thinking about it and kept walking. Now, in the underworld in Surzak's office. So he transferred to the underworld in Surzak's office. The redhead is sitting at his desk, writing a piece of paper quietly until the door is opened abruptly. What? Unable to finish this, as he sees Seraphol with an angry expression, but also confused, sad, along with other emotions. Before Surzak spoke, he saw how Grafia entered the room and closed the door behind her. What's going on, Seraphol-sama? Curious about the behavior of the Mao Leviathan, who is usually cheerful, Grafia is wondering. Yeah, what's the problem? A little worried about Seraphol, Surzak says. You have to see this. Showing the cell phone with the video on the screen. What is this video? Confused. To see how this would affect the Mao. Just look at it, Seraphol says, giving the cell phone to Surzak, and then went to sit on a small sofa, trying to calm down, and her face was still an array of emotions. Surzak was confused about what happened to Seraphol, that she'd this video, but his thoughts were interrupted when he heard Grafia speak. Seraphol-sama, this better be, but stopped, seeing as Seraphol was rather stressed. Just watch the video, Seraphol says, her voice taking a cold manner, which neither the Mao Lucifer nor his wife had heard in a long while. Surzak saw whatever trouble Seraphol has to do with this video, so he played it while Grafia looked over his shoulder. Of everything they were expecting, they did not expect to see Issei in the video. This confused them, but the tension was only increasing every second that the video played. They could see how Issei was blamed for something. Now they began to insult him, and they started to hit him, kick him, and at that moment he felt helpless, but also confused. Confusion and anger is what the Mao and his wife felt, because who did this? The question went through their minds. They saw Sanji appear, and they thought that he would help Issei, but their confusion increased more, seeing what happened. They did not understand. Weren't Issei and Sanji supposed to be friends? They were still confused, but confusion turned into anger when they heard what Sanji said. They saw Sona appear, as everyone began to laugh at Issei, but then they stopped, as another laugh was heard. It was a bit psychotic, but rather arrogant. They saw Issei stand with his hand on his face, but even with that, they could see a smile of a ruler and a burning amber eye that filled them with doubts, and those doubts increased when they saw how Issei hit and beat Sanji in the perverted duo. However, what left them in a lot of fear of the words was, how does it feel to know that they all deceived you? They finished watching the video. The room was covered in uncomfortable silence, but that silence was broken by Seraphol. That video given to me by Sosan, her eyes closed, Seraphol says. Then it's real, Ddraig says, his voice in a muted tone, putting the phone on his desk. This is real? But aren't Issei-sama and Sanji-sama supposed to be friends? In those words, Graphia's tone, confused but also afraid. But that reaction, looking at Serafall, Ddraig says. So you realized it, Serafall said. Yes. Whatever worry he had changed to a serious demeanor, Ddraig does. That reaction is that of someone who explodes from a lot of stress or unstable state of mind, Grafia says. Yeah, this reaction only means bad news, Serafall replied. No, it can't be, Ddraig's holding his head. No, those words can't be true, right? Ddraig said. It is, most likely, Serafall replied, with great fear that they were true. Ddraig sighs and calms down. I want you to two and go look for him. Worried about Issei. It's true. We have to go find him. In his state, it is very likely that he can commit something foolish, Gravia said, worried about her little brother. Right, let's go, Serafall says. The two women got together and left in a magical circle, leaving Ddraig alone in his office. Ugh, I hope you're okay, Issei-kun, with many concerns about the young Red Dragon Emperor, what could do. So the Mao could only rub his head to seize the oncoming headache that he was receiving. Now, in the house of Hyoudou. In the living room of the house, a magical circle appeared, which Serafall and Grafia emerged from. Seeing that they arrived in the right area, they knew they had an uncertain amount of time, because they knew the girls were at school, and if the video was any indication... Let me call So-san, making communication circles, Serafall says. Yes, Oni-sama, confused by the call, Sona says. So-san, do you know where Issei-kun is? Serafall says. No. After what happened in the classroom, he left the academy, Sona said. Okay, thank you. Cutting off the communication. You heard that, right? Looking towards Grafia. Yes, we better see his room and look for him around the city in her usual serious manner. Okay, just as serious as Grafia, Serafall replied. The two went upstairs, went to Issei's room. When they reached the door, they slowly opened it. Upon entering, they saw the room was strangely clean and tidy, but there was a faint foul odor, which was something to worry about. I don't feel the energy of Issei-kun, but the others have been here. A little worried about the situation, Serafall is. Yeah, it seems that he has not been here for a day or two, Grafia replies. The two looked at each other and nodded and went into the city to start looking for Issei. 3 hours later. The two were looking for Issei all over the city. In every minute they spent looking at him, their fears and worries increased, wondering what he was doing or where he was hiding, because they did not find him, were the questions that passed over and over again in their heads. It only got worse as time went on, but they tried to stay calm. Although it was very difficult, their worries and fears continued to take over little by little. It was time for school to end. When they passed by the academy, they could feel a small but almost impenetrable trace of Issei's power as they saw the students leaving, which was normal. But then they felt a trace of teleportation magic in the alley where he teleported. They were already so nervous that they were about to go to talk to Rias, but they did not do it on the possibility that what Sanji said may be true. They could not find Issei, and they kept looking around for about 20 more minutes until they found a known aura. They were glad as they went to the place where the aura was felt, with Issei 3 hours prior. Issei had been walking inside the cave for about 20 minutes. Ddraig told him not to worry, and he was close, seeing a golden ornament on the floor. It was a surprise to Issei. We are here, Ddraig says. Issei looked up from the ornament and saw the cave, which was much bigger than he imagined. It was greater than the catastrophe, filled with gold, gems, and even ancient weapons. Everything was of great value, probably more than how much he had from the Oppai Dragon show. The whole place was adorned with things of gold, gems as big as his head. It was a beautiful sight to see. What memories in this place, Ddraig says. Ddraig, is this yours? In shock of the treasures that were displayed all around. Yes, but it is ours. Well, what we enjoy can view later, Ddraig says. Alright, wait, about to walk off and then something caught his eye. Ddraig, what is that? Pointing towards what appears to be a black blade, but in the light of gold. It illuminated as a midnight blue or a purple, and there were chains wrapped around the guard of the blade. Yes, that sword of Lancelot. The holy sword now turned demonic. That is Aragonite, Ddraig says. Arondite? Issei replied, wanting to learn more about the blade. Yes, It is the sister sword to the Excalibur and the Galatine. The process similar characteristics as the two. It became a demonic sword due to Lancelot's fall into madness because of the downfall of Camelot. Ddraig finished. Huh, how do you know so much, and how do you obtain a holy sword anyway? Shouldn't it be in the hands of the church? Issei replied. Well, you know how Excalibur was broken into fragments. Are on site, lost a fragment of itself. Don't know what happened to it. It may have been duplicated, but we haven't felt its power since the one who brought it here made sure to keep Ondite's power to a minimum. Otherwise, someone like Kokaville would have gone for it, Ddraig said. Well, that explains why it hasn't been brought to the church, though. I think it would be needed by them, since you said it was a demonic, but that doesn't answer how you obtained it, noticing that his partner failed to answer the question. Well, isn't it obvious, my kid, that can only be found by my bearers, so of course, it was one of my former bearers, Ddraig said. Yeah, I figured as much. I meant, which bearer was it? Issei said. Ha! It was Lancelot's son, Galadod. He was one of my strongest bearers, Ddraig says. Wait, one of the Knights of the Round Tables was your bearer? Shocked that Ddraig had such a bearer. Yes, Galahad was strong, indeed. He was devoid of his father's flaws, and tried to become the perfect knight. He succeeded in where his father failed, by achieving the Holy Grail, Ddraig said. Wow, I wish I could have met him, Issei said, remembering how the former bearers sacrificed themselves in Samuel's prison. Haha, you did, Ddraig said. I did, but I only met Alicia, and finally connecting the dots. Yes, Galadod was Beelzard, the one that considered as the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, Ddraig says. Amazing. Learning about how Beelzard Galadod then he knew, since the man only sang to him the Oppai Dragon song did a little bit of a dance of choreography. I'm definitely changing that show when I get the chance, Issei says. Now, get a move on, there's more to see, Ddraig says. Right, Issei replies. Issei walked down a path that was full of valuable things on either side, until he reached some entrance, which looked like a glass door with sharp edges. Issei entered and saw something beautiful. It was a small green landscape, a small lake, and a little further down from that was a waterfall. It was one beautiful sight Issei had ever seen. Within the hidden oasis, there were flowers, but they were not normal ones. These flowers seemed to be made of crystals. They looked beautiful, and Issei was amazed by the scenery. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Ddraig says. Yeah, it does. Still fascinated by the view. Now go and take 3 flowers, Ddraig said, his tone gone back to being serious. Issei did what Ddraig asked him, but when he was trying to pluck the flowers, he noticed that it was not as easy as it looked. He had to use a lot of force to be able to take them out. Done, Issei said. Good. Now go back to the treasure room and look for something to grind them in, Ddraig says. Issei went back to the treasure room and searched among the luxuries for something to grind the flowers with, and something to grind them in. He returned back to the Oasis Valley with a bowl of gold and an ancient iron hammer. Now, let's begin. Start grinding the pearls, Ddraig said. Issei began to remove the crystal petals from the flowers and grind them into a bowl. This took long enough because the petals were very hard, but in 15 minutes, Issei finally grounded crystal petals. Now, you'll need to cut yourself and let the blood fall on the petals, he said with a little fear. Okay. He brought forth his blade, Ascalon, made a small cut along the palm of his right hand and let the blood flow from the cut onto the grounded crystal petals. The blood was absorbed in the petal, and when they did, Issei felt an immense pain. It was as if he was being crushed, grounded, and cut up, but everything ended in 3 seconds, though it felt a little longer to Issei. The blood stopped flowing, and the pain subsided too. While recovering, Issei saw a shine from the mixture. The shine went from light red, and then dark blue, and finally black. All these changes perplexed Issei, as all those colors represented his power. The light red was the power of Ddraig, the dark red was the power of Great Red, the dark blue was the power of Orpheus, but he was not sure what the black represented. Good, the process has ended, Ddraig said, a little glad the first step was over. What was that, Ddraig? It is a process that happens when one of these flowers absorbs the blood of a dragon. This flower creates some sort of anchor through the blood with the dragon, and that's why you feel pain. But the good thing is that the pain goes by fast, Ddraig says. Alright, but what about these colors? And more importantly, what does the black mean? Issei says. Each color represents part of your power, but the one that matters the most is the black. As I told you before, you are becoming an evil dragon. At this time, you are already 18% evil dragon, Ddraig says. What? You said it was 15%. How did it go up so fast, Issei says. Because the corruption is increasing. This is due to the evil pieces and the power of infinity. But do not worry. It's all not that bad, Ddraig says. What do you mean it's all not that bad, Issei replies. After meeting with the others, I will tell you, Ddraig says. Alright, now what, Issei replied. You just need to wait for the mixture to stable. This will take a few hours. You get some rest. I will wake you up, Ddraig replies. Alright, Issei says. I could use a little sleep, and the scenery is nice. Might as well enjoy it. Lying on the plush grass of the valley and closing his eyes within a few minutes, he then fell asleep. And that is the end of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. If I'm not mistaken, you are me, looking at the figure in front of him, Issei is. Yes and no, but that will be answered later. For now, sit down, my legs hurt. Out of nowhere, Issei and the figure were seated. Okay then, what am I doing here? What do you want, leaning back in the chair? I hope you're not that thing in an anime of being a dark part of me, or something that you want to take control of my body, but then I find that you are good and want to help me, Issei says to himself. Ha! Well, no. His appearance changed to an Issei that was half white and half black. You see, I am you, or better yet, was you. Ah, well, that's more confusing. We better start with your name, and then you can explain, Issei says. Well, you can call me Jaiko. Or Jiko, if you want. Like a little smile on his face. By the way, Jaiko means oneself. Is it because you're me? Issei replies. You could say that. His smile remains on his face. Now let's get to the main thing, Jaiko says. Bueno, Issei said calmly. I am you, or I was you, but I'm still part of your feelings, and I've always been here with you. When you needed to trust yourself, I helped you. When you went through something, I gave you strength. I am part of you, but something's happened, so it's not like we used to be, Issei says. Correct. You and I got separated when this fall started. Every day, hour, minute, or second, you and I are separated even more. This leads to your decrease in feelings, looking up to the sky of the mindscape. I understand, says Issei, because I felt that I was lacking strength, also looking in the sky, like when I entered this place, turning his gaze back to Jiko. Yeah, when you entered here, we temporarily separated, turning to Issei. And what is this place, Issei says, looking at the panorama around him. That I cannot tell you. That is for later. I am here to tell you something important and repeat something I already told you, it was said. Issei says in reply, and that would be, raising an eyebrow while paying more attention to what Jiko had to say. First and most importantly, is that when you are to leave here, you have to talk to Ddraig and ask him what he plans to do with the boosted gear. No matter what he tells you, you will tell him that everything will be fine and nothing bad will happen, Jiko says. Issei nodded his head. In second, I already told you once before, but if you keep suppressing your feelings, these will be harmful when you release them, so stop holding back. You're better than this. Getting up from his chair, Jiko says. You said that. That would mean that Issei looked at Jiko only to see Rainier. I took this form for a few minutes to talk to you and turn you from the path you were heading, Jiko says. Yeah, I'm crazy, putting a hand on his head. No, you aren't. Only that when people go through difficult situations or even break their minds and feelings, they tend to act differently. Only that you were separated in two, already in. Oh, you better wake up, stopping himself from continuing and looking back to the sky. As he began to disappear, Issei finishes. Quiet. Ddraig will send you to do something, and you and I will talk again. Just wait until I will answer all of your questions, and do not forget what I told you. As he watched Issei disappear, leaving Jiko alone in that place. It is better that everything goes faster. But that can't be, as he looked towards the ground. As the cracks with flames appeared throughout the place, and these cracks became larger, the second consuming everything that was in its way within the flames. Well, looking at the cracks, it's better prepare me for my long sleep, as he faded away too. Now, outside of Issei's dreamscape, until Issei abruptly woke up. Who? What? What? As he jumped off the ground into a standing position. On guard. It's good that you're awake. Happy that Issei woke up, but he couldn't help but think, I couldn't see that dream. That's strange, Ddraig thought to himself. Ah, Ddraig. Stopping himself and sitting on the ground, he remembered what Jiko told him. Ddraig. A great seriousness emitted from his tone. Yes, a little confused by Issei's tone. Tell me what you plan to do with the boosted gear, Issei says. Oh, Issei, you already know I already finished modifying your training. You see, time passes 3 times faster here, so if a day passes out there, it would be 3 days within here, and you can modify it so that it also works with magic power. Internally, he was very nervous. Damn, I must change the subject quickly, Ddraig says. Ddraig, Issei replied. Oh, look at the flowers. They have finished adapting. We need only to talk to the maid. And then the Mao. Go find the thing that is missing, Ddraig says. Ddraig, Issei says, looking at his left hand and with a glare. Speak, Issei says. Fine. Feeling defeated, he decided to explain his plan again. I will explain it to you in the easiest way for you to understand. The plan was that while the ritual was happening, I would be changing the power of Orpheus with my own. While I'm doing that, the boosted gear would be going through sort of metamorphosis, like reconstruction. While in this state, it will absorb the powers of Albion that you took as well as the power of Ascalon, uniting them with the abilities of the boosted gear. However, this phase, your blood and dragon powers will be sealed until the boosted gear is finished with the process, Ddraig says. And the bad news, detecting some sadness in Drake's tone, which caused him to be worried. Well, there is a high possibility that my soul will be permanently sealed, or dead, Ddraig says. You'll die. But he was worried, but he remembered what Jiko told him. Relax, Ddraig, everything will be fine. There is no need to worry, calming down. Though he was confused by what Jiko would do to ensure that nothing bad happens, but decided that they will talk later. It'll be okay, partner, Ddraig says. But don't you think that I will explode because of the whole process? Although he was worried, but it didn't show up on his face. Good. As you know, the boosted gear cannot use the powers of the White Dragon without any cost because they are 2 different skills, and can only have one. This process will combine the skills and other things such as Ascalon. Imagine it, a dragon-type Longinus that is also a Dragon Slayer Longinus. Excited to see what happened at the end of the process. But the downside is that all your power due to having the blood and flesh of 2 dragons will be sealed to adapt and improve as a whole with the boosted gear, Ddraig finishes. And what would that leave me as? Issei says. You would be a human with a low power. It would be as if you did not enter the supernatural world, Ddraig said. Oh, discouraged by the fact that he would have to be human again. Yes, although we still need to do this to heal you. But on the bright side, you can train here to build up your prowess as the process goes, Ddraig said. And when will that be? Issei replies. We will do it after talking to the others, Ddraig said. Alright, that's fine. Still discouraged, but hope the process to go by quickly so he can have his reassurance. Issei got up from the ground and began to stretch. Alright, Ddraig, how long did I sleep? Issei says. 2.5 hours, Ddraig replied. Well, we better get back to Ko and wait for Annie. Anne is another way to say his big sister, or with the title that Grafia wants Issei to call by her, you know what I'm saying? So older or big sister, by the way, just for reference. Okay, take the flour mixture and leave it in the place where nothing will happen to it. Issei took the bowl of the flour mixture and left it on top of what looked like a bench made of silver, then began to walk a little, stretch his legs. As he was going through a lot of treasures bigger than him, he moved something that made half the box fall on his head. What is holding his head, rubbing the spot where the box hit him? Issei opened the box and opened it and found 2 blood-red gloves with some flame design with a small magic circle or jewel with it. Beware of that, Ddraig says. What's the matter? Ddraig, confused by his partner's reaction. Those gloves are special, so be careful. I'll tell you what they do later, Ddraig says. Okay, let's go. Creating a magic circle to be a quiet place and wait for Grafia. Now, in the park, Issei appeared in the park and looked for a tree. After finding, he decided to lay down and wait. About 20 minutes passed when he felt something people walking towards him. "Hello, Hyoudou-san." Issei, jaded by what he was called, opened his eyes to see two girls whom he knew. "How are you?" the other girl replied, as she sat next to Issei while the other sat down in front of him. "Ah, hello, Katsure and Murayama." His tone emotionless once again. "God, it's true, you look horrible." Getting a better look at Issei, now she is facing him. Issei was very pale with large dark circles under his eyes. His hair was rowdy. He looked like a disaster, but the strangest thing was his face. It did not express feeling. Just like his eyes, they were empty without shine. "What do you want? If it's to ridicule me, you'll end up worse than that bastard Sanji." His tone was very intimidating, like it was when he beat the perverted duo in Sanji earlier that day. The Kendo Club was more surprised. This perverted beast, it couldn't be true. He did not look at them in a lewd way, but with indifference. What happened to the energetic and cheerful pervert that no matter how many times you beat him with the Kendo Club, he did not give up on spying? It was very sad to see a person in this way. "Hyoudou-san, aren't we good friends?" Murayama says, slightly nervous about this confrontation. "Yeah, we're good friends. If you consider hitting me with a stick almost any time you see me, or talk about how it was better for me to be expelled, or that I was the worst piece of shit in this world, then we're inseparable friends," with sarcasm rolling off his tongue. "I know. We were wrong speaking that way and we regret it." As Maria moved from his side to stand next to her best friend, they bowed their heads. "That doesn't matter. So talk and go away. I want to sleep," Issei says. "We were not in the classroom when it happened. They told us that two perverts along with Saji and a girl, they had almost expelled you. And when you sent them to the infirmary and you hit Sekiryuutei starting it off calm but ended up reapproaching Issei." "And what? You want to know why? I'm already tired of listening to you," Issei says. "We would like to know because why did this happen and why did Saji say they betrayed you?" She put her hand in her skirt and then quickly pulled it out. Issei was about to tell them that he would not tell them anything, but he felt that the people he was waiting for had already arrived, and he knew he'd have to explain everything to them. So he decided to tell the Kendo duo that the people would listen, thus kill two birds with one shot. "All right." Leaning back against the tree, Issei says, or starts to say. Katsure and Murayama paid close attention, along with the other guests. "I discovered 3 days ago that I have a disease that is killing me. This impacted all who were listening. The disease makes me spit blood, feel weak, and every day I get closer to my death." Looking at the sky, Issei finishes. "What?" But she remembered that she was told that Issei had spit blood in the classroom. "That's why you look like this. It makes sense," Murayama says. "Yeah, but the other thing you asked is a bit complicated." Closing his eyes, Issei said. "And what would it be?" Still confused, Katsure said. "I had a relationship with the girls of the ORC, and with the other girls as well. This shocked both Kendo girls. But not only did we have a relationship, but we lived together, and we were committed to marriage," his tone becoming cold. "Then the rumors were true, only to see Issei nod his head." "But why aren't you together?" Katsure says. "That's what I'm getting to. A few days ago they ignored me. They did not pay attention to me. Some greeted me, but that was it. Before they slept in the same bed as me, but that ended, as they discarded me as if I was nothing to them," his tone changing from emotionless to one of fury. And what happened? Why did they discard you?" Feeling sorrow for Issei, Murayama is. "A short period of time ago, I fell into a coma. It only lasted 2 weeks, but apparently that was more than enough for them to lose all feelings they had for me, or die or replaced," lowering his head, his hair to cover up his eyes. "They thought that I would die, that I would never wake up. I don't know. All that I know, those 2 weeks were enough so that they would no longer love me. But maybe from the beginning they never loved me, or I was just a toy, or they got tired of me, of my perversion. But that doesn't matter. They changed and deceived me," his tone dead and empty, no sadness or anger within it. "And who did they change you for?" With some tears coming out of their eyes, easy. My so-called friend and rival, who I considered a brother. My so-called best friend, who I help overcome his past. My other rival, who shared my perversion. And my so-called friend, who I believe to be my younger brother. And the one that I once considered to be a second father," his tone growing darker. "Who would have thought, but it's the truth," Issei says. Katsure and Murayama could not believe it. Everything that was happening to Issei, from being in a coma, to your girlfriends who betrayed you, to your best friends that considered you family, and awaiting for death, this was unreal. For the person to endure that, they would cry, hugging someone close to them, or become suicidal. When these words passed through their heads, they were a little afraid that Issei would take the second option. It was true that they were not close to him and they had several horrible things to the brunette, but that did not mean they hated him to death. Sure, he spied on them, but all men have some perversion, and even women. And that was reason for this to happen to him? This answer was that he did not deserve this, but they could not do anything but to try to comfort him, because he could do more damage to himself than they had. So they just sat sobbing while Issei was watching. And seeing Issei, they could see someone who is on the verge of breaking, someone who carries a weight on his back, someone good but was silent in disgrace. But he was not one to go behind the backs of those who hurt him to take revenge, as many people would do. He is sitting here, suffering in silence. And why aren't you at home with your parents, still sobbing from the ordeal that Issei is going? Murama says. My parents, huh? His voice taking on an even darker tone. The Kendo duo felt that the answer meant that everything was worse than they thought. My parents were aware that they deceived me, and they agreed to it. Those good parents had the audacity to say that I should be like them. What pathetic bitches and pieces of shit! His voice dead again. So do me a favor and call me Hyoudou. Thanks, Issei says. So do me a favor and never call me Hyoudou again, Issei says. They could no longer believe it. He was enduring all this alone, without help. It was him against the world. This was very bad. He needed help, but from who? His parents were going on this along with his friends, and his girlfriends too. Even his perverted friends did something terrible. Who was someone who was already going through all of this? What were they thinking? It's better you two go. I want to be alone. Looking at the two girls, Issei says. They looked back at Issei in silence for a few seconds until Issei spoke again. Also, who are you going to deliver that recording to? Pointing to Kadasei's shirt, Issei says. You knew, stuttering, afraid of what Issei's reaction would be. Yes, Issei replied. And you're not angry? Murayama replied. I'm also afraid what Issei could do. No, just tell me who you told to record me. No, just tell me who told you to record me, Issei said. His tone is still empty. It was Akira Kiryu, Kadasei says. Are you friends or something? Issei replied. Yes, we're friends, standing her ground, Murayama says. Then you can leave. His voice became intimidating. Right, as both girls began to turn and leave, but in a quick movement they embraced Issei. What the fuck are you doing? His tone promising death, Issei says. We're sorry for asking you those questions, for recording you, and everything that we did to you in the past. We can only ask for your forgiveness, as she and Kadasei separated from Issei. I already said that it doesn't matter. It's in the past, but I want to know, what will you do with the recording? Raising an eyebrow, Issei says. After showing it to Akia, we plan to show it to those of the academy, so that they see the true face of their two great Oni-samas, with venom in her tone, Murayama nodding in agreement to the test of their former idols. Kadasei finishes. Well, you better get going, Issei says, moving from leaning onto the tree to lying on the ground. We're really sorry. As she leaves and Kadasei left at the same time. After 3 minutes... Seriously, they won't come out, Issei says. When saying, the two figures came from behind the tree that Issei was previously leaning on. These figures were immobile. All good. It's alright, standing up from turning to face the figures. Am I glad, Ddraig says, surprising Issei because he said it in a lively tone. Are you serious, Ddraig? Issei replied. It was to cheer you up. Don't take it personal, Ddraig says. Well, whatever. Cutting off the communication with the dragon, looking at the figures. Hello, Sarai-chan and Ini-chan, said in an empty tone, Issei says. The two women did not move, but kept sobbing. Oh, okay. Bring it in. Opening his arms, Issei does. Seraphal was the first to throw herself at Issei and embrace him tightly. Seraphal was feeling many emotions, but the joy that came in her when she found him, that feeling of despair and fear, calmed down. He was in front of her, but on the other hand there was confusion, anger, and incompetence. She felt useless, as she was the one that she considered a little brother to suffer this in being left alone. It did not matter that she had so much work because of the Trihexa. She would have been with him, but she wasn't, and that feeling was consuming her. She was putting more and more force into the embrace as she did not want to let go. She felt that if she did not, she would fall into darkness, that no one could take him out, and she would not allow that. Issei caressed the head of Serafall carefully, allowing he was expressing affection he did not show on his face. He then looked to Grafia, who was in the same place, and like Serafall, tears fell through her eyes. You too, sis? Opening his other arm a little more, Issei does. After a few seconds, she also jumped into his arm to hug him. Grafia strongly embraced Issei. At this time, there was no label of respect. She just wanted to confirm that he was here, and that he would not leave. The two were sobbing for 5 minutes, until they calmed down and remained holding him. After they calmed down, they sat with Issei on the floor. Grafia starts. I'm glad to see you are well, Otoboto, a little sorry for her earlier behavior, but rubbing his head, glad that he was at least safe. I'm okay, Issei replies. The two noticed that Issei was not the one they knew. He did not look at them with bright eyes. He did not express feelings on his face. His tone was flat and empty, and his appearance was bad. Issei-chan, is what you said true? Serafall said, looking towards the ground. For the most part, yes, Issei replied. So, pushing herself to clear her mouth, they did, watching Issei with concern. Yes, Issei replied to Grafia. After those words, a great silence was formed, which lasted a few minutes until it was broken. No, it can't be. Tearing from her gaze from the ground to look back at Issei, Serafall does. It's the truth, looking back at Serafall. How could they? Grafia says. Her tone was quiet, still trying to process what she heard. Suddenly the atmosphere became cold as the temperature was dropping. Tell me, the disease, it's real? With a palpable fear in her voice, Serafall says. Yeah, it's true. I'm dying, Issei says, looking towards the sky. The whole atmosphere froze. The cold was too much, so Issei had to use magic so as not to freeze. Girls, please calm down. I can't be using magic. Ugh! Ended up spitting out blood, Issei started to. The two became even worried and stopped using their magic, making the environment return to normal. Issei cleans his mouth, where he drained some of the blood out. Ddraig. Yes, the amount of magic you can use has gone down, Ddraig says. Shit, Issei replies. Oto, are you alright? Becoming very worried, Grafia says. Are you okay, Issei-chan? Just as worried as Grafia. Yeah, although you almost killed me, but I'm fine, Issei says. We better take you to Surpass-sama, Grafia says. You're right. The more time passes, it gets worse standing up from the ground, Serafall replies. Hey, why the rush? Issei says. You're spitting blood. You're not as nervous as worried? And Chop's just about Issei's behavior, Serafall says. Yeah, Serafall-sama is correct. We better hurry, also getting up from the ground. Grafia says, calm down. This is nothing. As he got up from the ground, Serafall and Grafia said, like hell it's nothing! Alright, just breathe and calm down with this calm expression present. They both took heavy breaths and calmed down. Well, now this is what we will do, putting his hands on the shoulders of the two. What will we do? Serafall says. The best thing to do is to go to Surpass-sama, proceeding to make a teleportation circle, but Issei spoke first. No, I won't go yet, but you will, Issei says. Serafall says Grafia said, confused. You will go and tell Surpass to make a meeting, that I would only have to explain everything once, removing his hands from the shoulders of the two, Issei says. That's a good idea, thinking about the benefits of doing so, Grafia thought in her head. And who would go to this meeting, intrigued by Issei would select? Surpass, you, Anne, Zectodius-san, Venena-san, Cyro-Org, Lord Phoenix, Lady Phoenix, Odin, Gondel, Barkiel, Shamazil, Sona, her Parage, all of them, Lord Cetri, Lady Cetri, Yakuza, Arthur, Byoko, Michael, Yrel, Valerie, if she can, Tanin, Ajuka-san, and Falbeam-san. That would be all, Issei said. Okay, both said, remembering the given names. Alright, we'll go inform Surpass-sama about this, making a magic circle for the women to leave. I will come and find you and everything is ready, preparing to enter the circle, Serafall says. Okay, Issei says, lying back on the ground. Are you sure that you'll be fine? Worried about his condition. Yeah, calm down and don't worry, just resting. Raises his hand to his sick that he's okay. With a nod of their heads, both left Issei to go speak with Surpass. In the underworld, in Surpass's office now, it's a scene change. The redhead with a serious look on his face was watching the door, waiting. He already seen the video about 50 times, and could not get that feeling that his sister and her Paraj and the others did such foolish move of committing indefinitely, and they lost a noble and honest man. While thinking, a magic circle appeared to show Seraphil and Grafia. The two, upon arrival, were stunned at the gaze of Sir Sex, which said, "Talk now!" which frightened them a little. "Well," his voice with a heavy tone, Sir Sex said, "we found him." Seraphil said, going to sit on the couch that was in the office. "And where is he?" Looking at his wife, his tone never changing. "He did not want to come. At least not yet. I figured it would be better to schedule a meeting, so he can explain everything at once," Grafia said. "How was he? Nothing was wrong with him, right?" Running a hand through his hair, Sir Sex says. "He's not well," Seraphil says. "It would be better to make preparations as soon as possible," Grafia says. "You're right. And who will attend this meeting?" Sir Sex says. "Well," both say at the same time. Now, back with Issei. Issei was lying on the grass with his eyes closed in a calm and relaxing silence, but he broke the silence. "Hey, Ddraig," his eyes never moving nor opening. "What's wrong?" Ddraig says, a green circle glowing on his Issei's hand as the dragon spoke. "When the process begins, how long will I be human?" Opening his eyes, looking at the sky. "I don't know for sure. It could be a month, 10 years. I'm not sure," Ddraig says, concerned about this. Who knows? If another threat would appear, Issei wouldn't be as strong. Certainly not strong enough to put a target in his place as lesser dragon for his crimes. "Well, I can take advantage of it," getting up from the ground. "How? What's the benefit?" Ddraig said. "Well, I have a mediocre base of all my powers. I'm a physical attacker and only know how to fight melee well. I can use magic, but I hardly know how to use any. I have 3 swords, and I hardly know how to use them. I am someone who has power, but doesn't know how to use it efficiently," beginning to walk. "Well, I guess you're right. You can train when you don't have it, and when they return, apart from being stronger, you would know how to use them perfectly and even improve on them," Ddraig says. "Exactly," Issei replies. "I'm going to buy some things to prepare that oasis will help. Since you said the magic around it won't take much, go slower, which will give you more time to train," leaving the park. Issei was walking around the city. In the library, he went to look for certain books. He found what he was looking for: a self-defense book, a boxing book, a kendo book, a book that was based on a variety of sword styles, a book that was based on different striking styles, and a medicine book. These were for beginners. He got even more complicated ones, a math book just like medicine ones from the beginner to intermediate levels. Based on school levels, they could be considered from college and beyond. Physics books, chemistry books. Knowing that he would most likely miss school, he could only hope Sona would cover for him, so he could take it back for finals, pass, and move on to the next level. Being pleased with what he found, he took them. In addition, he got a backpack to carry them. He brought this item and left, putting all the books, and kept walking. "Why all that?" Ddraig says, referring to the books, speaking in his partner's mind, as well as he was in public at the moment. "It's to learn to do when I cannot do in my current state. Plus, I intend to continue my education. I want to have a degree. I missed a bit because I was in a coma and barely caught up. I may be gone for longer while, so I want to stay caught up on my education. Unlike those bitches who were too busy f***ing around. They probably were expecting me to catch them up to speed, or Sona to do so, maybe a little Sanji, since he was only one in school." "Ha! Indeed, it is why to stay up to date on your schoolwork, but why the fighting books?" Ddraig said. About that, I decided to fend for myself, because I would do everything my way. I would learn to be independent, to fight my way, to use magic. Nobody would know how I fight, making it more difficult to beat me, since they don't know of what I've learned, and it will help me mature." "How interesting. If this is the path you choose to walk, I can support you," Ddraig says, but to himself he thought, "For as long as I can," Ddraig said to himself. "I have to ask Ajuka to see if he gives me more books on magic. His formulation of spells are so intricate. I want to be able to utilize my magic to the fullest. I'll have to see if Shami and Barkyl can get me everything about the sacred gears. I also want to ask if there is something like magical mathematics or magical psychics thinking about it. It would be better to understand everything. I would have to ask for a type of dictionary or something." I'm hungry. Starting to walk to the small cafe, it was like 5 o'clock nearing the evening, and he went to eat quite early. After eating, Issei came out of the caf, feeling a little more refreshed, but then he turned his head. He met 2 people he did not want to see, unfortunately. It seems that those 2 people saw him. Ddraig growls, "Great. Just what we needed. We don't have time for this shit, Ddraig says. Indeed. A glare now present on his face, his eyes giving a slight amber glow. Oh, look, it's Issei, Mickey says, pointing in his direction. Hey, Issei, Goro says, and she began to approach him. Issei only sighed. Began to walk in the opposite direction, ignoring those two. He listened as they called him, but he ignored them. Son Issei, trying to get Issei's attention, Goro was. Mickey ran until she reached Issei's side. Son, where have you been? You had us worried, looking sideways at Issei's while scolding him. Issei did not care. She was there and kept walking onto the tune of his own beat. Issei Hyoudou, stop walking this instant, Mickey says, grabbing Issei by the shoulder. Shut up and let go of me, you bitch, removing Mickey's hand from his shoulder. Oh, wait, forgive me. Calling you a bitch would be an insult to them. With venom in his tone, he turned and keep walking, Issei says. Mickey was rattled that her son would say such words. Before she could say anything, Goro interrupted. How dare you talk to your mother like that? First, you don't return home and then insult your mother? You are going to receive some punishment for your insolence. Stop. Stopping Issei by grabbing his shoulder. It seems I cannot be at peace, Issei says. I think it's time to put them in their place, Ddraig says. You're right, Issei replied. What do we have here? I believe I told you to leave me alone, Issei says, grabbing Goro's hand off his shoulder and turning towards the man. What happened to you, son? Oh, are you sad that you're not able to spend time with the girls? Don't worry. They were in the house, placing his hand back on Issei's shoulder, stopping him again. Alright, look, you piece of shit. I already told you to let me go and leave me alone, with a growl in his tone, once again grabbing the hand off his shoulder. Son, why are you talking to us like this? Mickey says, trying to prevent the situation from escalating. Leave me alone, or you will regret it. Letting go of the hand and preparing to go on his way, Issei does. What the fuck is wrong with you, Goro said before turning to his wife, lowering his voice. You see, dear, this is why I told you that they were better than him. But the response he got in return was not from his wife. Then why don't you adopt them and raise them? You know what they shit raises shit. His glare slightly intensified. Both adults were shocked. They did not expect him to hear them. What are you talking about, son? Nervous about what they may transpire. Don't call me that. I am not your son of a piece of shit like you. So I suggest you reconsider what you call me. His tone is empty and indifferent. Look, you spoiled child, it's best that you apologize for all these idiocies what you're saying, grabbing Issei again, Goro does. Partner. I know, Issei replies. This time, Issei did not remove Goro's hand, but raised his hand and snapped his fingers, creating a barrier. When making the barrier, he felt a puncture of pain in his heart, but he did not show it. Alright, you piece of shit, I've gotten tired of this. So this is my last warning that I'll give you, his voice taking a much darker tone. Son, calm down and let's go home. Going to grab Issei's hand, but couldn't help but think. I have to know if he knows about the girls, Mickey says to herself. Issei lowered his head, making the adults think that he had calmed down and bring him home. Ha! Son this and son that. You sound like a broken record. You don't even know what the meaning of that word is. Looking into Mickey's eyes, she could see the inferno within them, that amber glow. She felt like it could burn her. She was frightened by the look and stepped back a little, but Goro became angry and squeezed his grip on Issei. Look, I've already had it. When you get home, you will see the punishment that I will give you. Trying to drag Issei, but he didn't move. Are you deaf? I'm not going to any fucking place with you, the venom in his voice returning. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm your father, looking into Issei's eyes. You poor soul, you don't even know, Ddraig says. Ha! My father. You? No, you are just a Chinese imitation of a man, a smirk adorning his face, swatting Goro's hand off his shoulder with force. Look, brat, you shut up and obey or else, waving his hand to shake off the pain from Issei's blow. Oh, and if not, what are you gonna do? Don't make me laugh. You know what it is in front of you? Is becoming a bit arrogant, but empty, and eyes start to glow amber as if they were on fire. I don't care that you are a lower-class demon. I am your father, and you will listen to me, Goro says. Lower class? Just as I thought, they told him about the supernatural, but it seems that not everything. Wow, are they far? How far will they go to keep with their lies? And they think they can take my achievements? Issei says. I'm done with this charity, Ddraig says. So am I, Issei replies. You are not my father. Is that clear to you? Issei says, becoming more threatening in his tone. Mickey, why do you have to act this way towards us? Mickey says, hoping for a different answer than she wants to believe. Why can't humans keep their mouths shut? Ddraig said. Even worse, that I have become one of them. While the process goes through, hopefully it's short phase, Issei says. Do you think I don't know damn thing about anything? Increasing his power no matter how much pain he felt. What are you talking about? Feigning ignorance, Gross said. And you still have to ask. I'll remember how about talking behind my back that I deserve to be deceived. His tone portrayed disgust if he was speaking to lesser beings. Both were frightened. He knew. But how? How do you know? Mickey says. That doesn't matter to you. Look, boy, you are going to tell me how you know, and you will go home and be with the girls. Is that clear to you? Trying to assert himself to Issei. No. You don't order me around, is that clear? Grabbing Goro by his neck in a quick movement. Apparently you and that bitch helped those damn whores! Tightening the grip. If only they told the truth. You are going to respect us, you perverted brat. You should not even be with them. You should be grateful, embracing Issei, making him release Goro. Issei just is silent. It's true. It's best if you shut up and answer my questions, grabbing Issei by the collar of his shirt. How do you even know about that? Looking into Issei's eyes. You don't care about that, with an emotionless tone. Yes, we do. Knowing that if you say anything, you will ruin the reputation of our girls, Mickey said. Issei kept silent, listening to his parents. It breaks him more. No matter how much he hated them, there was still some affection towards them, but it seems that they did not have any. Cursing the girls for ruining his family. He never should have let them in his life. Now he's kicking them out. It's over. And when the truth comes to light, they can only blame themselves. These fools will know who Issei really was and curse themselves for listening to some wretched whores. And they'll know that he wasn't their son anymore. He's a dragon. He could have been considered a descendant of Great Red, not these greedy humans who use his money for lavish vacations. I will not let that perverted shit ruin the image of the girls, tightening his gap, Goro says. Issei was connecting the dots, because they didn't care about having sex in the house, because they didn't care about when they saw them with his friends, and the reason why these two helped and supported them. This ended destroyed, and killing the little affection he felt for the people in front of him. You guys are shit, Issei says. What did you say? Mickey said, not hearing Issei the first time. Issei took Goro's hand, and just by putting some force in his grip, he broke it, and he bent his wrist backwards. Snap! That was the sound that was heard from Goro's hand and wrist. Ah! Screaming in pain and falling to his knees. Dear! Going to her husband in the rescue. You better listen to me, and well, in a completely dead and grave look in his eyes. Both adults were paralyzed in fear by Issei's tone when they heard it. The next time you touch me, I will kill them. As for your girl's reputation, don't worry, I won't do anything. They already damaged it themselves. And when the truth comes to light, never look for me, never talk to me, and I am no longer his son. And you will know who to blame, Issei says. Both adults only felt anger, but it was because they could not get the information from Issei. But they did not think about the consequences of this confrontation. They lost their son, but they believed that he would come back and apologize, and they would give him away. That's why Goro left a few words come out of his mouth, not knowing that in the future he would regret those words. Ha, yeah, of course you are nothing without us, nothing without them. You are just some perverted who had a little power that nobody takes seriously. You are garbage, nothing more. Looking at Issei's back as he walked away. I hope you never regret those words, but you will, and I won't care. With a tone that showed his superiority over his opponent, knowing that they will continue to cling on to their false truth. What the hell was that tone? That wasn't Issei's voice. What happened? Seems he's not afraid of anymore what life throws at him. It's time to break those chains and be reborn, Ddraig said. Issei canceled the barrier and got lost in the crowd. Mickey helped up Goro home as they were walking. She thought if it was okay. From Issei's words, it didn't seem that way. But what would a pervert know? Nothing. He just got excited about his name and that of the girls. Who cares? He was a low-class devil. He was not important. Kiba, Gasper, Saji, and Bali, they were real men. And they were worthy of the girls, right? These thoughts repeated over and over in her head until Goro spoke. We won't say anything to the girls. He was serious, but scared that Issei might be right. Okay, following her husband home with the same thoughts as him because if Issei was right, she doesn't know what she would do. Issei walked in total silence through the streets towards the park until he heard Ddraig's voice. They weren't under any kind of magic. They said everything on their own, Ddraig said, very annoyed at the family his partner was born into. Ddraig, I don't care. The truth will come to light, and they will wallow in despair. Issei Hyoudou is no more. They can blame those whores for killing him. What becomes is none of my concern. They are nothing. Entering the park, going to lie down the same place where he talked to the kendo doer, then later. Serafal and Grafia. And now we wait, closing his eyes to feel the wind on his face. And that is the end of chapter 10. And that is where we're going to stop for now. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, and oh my god, was this one crazy part. I am hoping you guys are just as excited as I am about this story. Wow, what a ride. Oh my god, my roommates are finally back and talking in the background like the queers they are. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I gotta get some things to discuss. I am losing my shit. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, no, I don't know what it is, bro. I'm getting nervous. I'm not sure why. I don't really know what's going on. Anyway, the story is really good. Like, I'm on chapter 10, and that was 30 minutes, and that felt like 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It felt really good. Like, it felt pretty quick. It was pretty quick to read, and that's how I know. Like, I can't wait to go to chapter 11. I wonder how long. In fact, let me just check how long chapter 11 is. Like, I just want to know. Like, and just now that you guys are, it's like 3 minutes. Okay, it's weird. I'm sure chapter 12 is long. So hopefully you guys once again did enjoy the video. Okay. Shout out to all my balance breakers, my new limit breakers. We have 69 channel members now because a lot of people decided to join because this series is going hard, bro. It's so fun to read. Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. If we could all try to hit 500 to 700 likes, that'd be absolutely amazing. 700. So thank you so much for the support. And without further ado, subscribe to my second channels and Popowski and follow DXD down in the description below. We hit 53K. We hit 34K on this channel as well. Oh my god, bro. We doing this for real. Okay, thank you so much for the support, guys. Without further ado, Spartanic Arts DXD out.